Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the virtual summit, Leading in a Crisis, Actionable Business and HR Strategies for Navigating Crisis and Change. And my name is Anissa Avon, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. With our expert speaker, Candace McGlynn, and our title of her talk today is Win the Day, Strategies for Increased Self-Care and Productivity in Uncertain Times. And we are going to jump right in. There's a lot to cover, and self-care right now is taking a bit of a back seat. So I know that I'm personally am very appreciative to have Candace, you with us. Hello, Candace.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Anissa.
Hello, and I want to just briefly introduce you guys to our sponsors and say thank you to them. Without our sponsors, our summit would not be possible. The David Whitmarsh and the Whitmarsh Consulting Group, they are a group of super talented marketing and multi-channel marketing specialists who specialize in HR and HR information technology solutions. Our other partner is Insperity, and Insperity, of course, is HR and HR outsourcing. One of the things that we've asked all of our sponsors, as well as all of our speakers and experts to do, is to provide our members, our clients and friends that register and join us for the summit with some type of a gift or a freebie that has value. And Insperity has been very generous. They are offering participants an free HR financial analysis report and debrief. And when Insperity said, okay, this is what we can do, I pushed back a little bit. I told them, I'm not so sure you want to do that. The truth is that many of our clients and organizations are not going to be a good fit for what you guys offer. And they said, that's not the point. The point is we're here to help. And if this is supportive, given the COVID-19 situation, and many HR departments are going to be completely turned upside down. Their budgets that they worked months on before that board meeting are thrown out the window. If we can help in that, then that's what we want to do. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, it looks like it's a little bit low, but how to take advantage of that, you go to turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/HR report, and the HRR is capitalized. A little bit about me. My name is Anissa Avon, and I'm the CEO of Turnkey Coaching and Development Solutions. We are a full-service enterprise learning and development firm. We have master-level executive coaches and leadership development experts and HR consultants in every major metropolitan area in the U.S. and in key hubs globally. Well, when I went to my team and I said, what are we going to do? You know, we know that a lot of our clients are suffering. And of course, we're sending emails saying, we're here for you, but what else can we do? And my team said, well, why don't we reach out to experts like Candace and our other expert consultants and learning and development specialists and HR consultants, and even our technology friends, and ask them to bring forth their best related to what it will take to survive this crisis together. And that's where the Leading in a Crisis Summit was born. Presently, we have over 40 plus speakers that are signed up to speak every Wednesday and Thursday throughout April. And now it looks like we're going to go ahead and go into May. But everything is free, and we want your feedback. If there is a topic or a subject that you would like to have us address, or to find an expert that you're interested in, please let me know. The schedule is changing all the time. You can find it at turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/leading in a crisis. A couple of things that we're going to talk a little bit later about at the end of the presentation are two special offers that Turnkey has put together, unique to this time and this time only. First is virtual training. I know that many of you are aiming to continue with high performance and continue your learning and development strategy in spite of the crisis. And some of you are having to lay off individuals, and you're worried about the folks that you're retaining and their level of engagement and satisfaction and competency within the organization. And so we've put together a virtual training suite specific for this unique time, and it is buy one, get one. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you guys. The other is our outplacement services. Our affordable outplacement services or name your own price. We also have executive level and scalable outplacement with a lot of one-on-one touch services, and contact us if we may be of assistance for that. But our enterprise solution for employees of all levels includes high tech meets high touch. And we didn't want to do free because free has no value, right? But we did want to do something special. So you'll find our name your own price programs at turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/NYOP outplacement. So Candace McGlynn is the consummate learning and development leader, consultant, speaker. She is an author. She is a contributing writer to the Forbes HR Council. She is, touching the wrong screen. There we go. Let me go back. One of the things that she brings forth is an enthusiasm for learning and development that I know you're going to experience today. And I want to mention also that the exclusive offer for our audience that Candace is bringing forward is in her partnership with Rinker Group, provided and by Innovation Solutions. She is a business solutions consultant and specialist in e-learning. And so her and her team have put together a 50% off e-learning strategy audit, which I'm excited about. Candace, tell us about you and what you're going to share with us today.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Anissa, and the entire Turnkey Solutions team for putting together this conference. I think it's absolutely amazing what you've been able to do in such little time. And it is so relevant and helpful. I know I am personally signing up for a number of talks. So thank you again for that. And, today what I'll be talking about is really how to win your day. A lot of what we're going through currently as it relates to COVID-19 and just the sudden shock of it all, right? Things happen so quickly. And as learning and development professionals, as HR professionals and leaders in business, we really are not just looking after our employees and workforce anymore, but we're looking after the people that they're living with, that we're all in the house with. So even in my personal life, I've had to shift from just working from home and working as a consultant to now homeschooling my 6-year-old daughter. And that was a task. I remember getting about 20 different links from her teachers, and they're really trying their best to be helpful. But at the same time, we're juggling. And so there's a lot of pressure on everyone. And while we all know how to take care of ourselves, and we all have our own approaches for self-care and productivity, I think those things are often forgotten in scenarios like what we're in today. So I just wanted to come and share my best practices and what I've learned over the years for self-care and maintaining productivity, especially in uncertain times, especially when there's difficulty or pressure, because I do think that it can help us during this time.
Agreed.
That's what I'm here to talk about.
It's brilliant and beautiful, and I'm eager to learn. I would agree completely that it's one thing to know what self-care is. It's one thing on a normal basis to have your routine where we get up and we eat healthy and we get our exercise out of the way and we get plenty of sleep. It's a whole nother commitment to continue to do that during times of high stress. So this is a very timely and appropriate topic.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to try to click over to the next slide. I'm not sure if I have control. Oh, okay. Done. Okay. But yeah, like I was saying, it was a sudden shift. Things happened so fast. My daughter was in the middle of spring break, and the next thing I know, we were trying to figure out how to homeschool her. And that's just not the reality. Everybody has a different story of where the situation has left them and the amount of pressure that they feel. So the impact is real. And with that, I thought to myself, so what's essential for getting through this time? What are the essentials? Because we are, the mandate really is for us to stay healthy, right? Because we want to stay well during this time. What are the things that we can do? And then innovation, because we hear this talk about the new normal. And I think, Anissa, you're going to do a talk about business, what is it, unusual, right?
Strategy.
It's no
Yeah.
longer the
Unusual.
same. So it's really the three things that are going to get us through this is embracing change, understanding that change is the reality, which we all know, but it's just coming at a quicker pace now. Focusing on well-being, and that's where that self-care piece comes in, and the commitment to innovation. And, when I think about how do we get there, it's really through optimism. And we often hear optimism, and some of us, we think about optimism negatively, but others embrace it. But there's been a number of studies to show why optimism and the power of positive thinking really is effective. So optimism does help with the ability to see new possibilities through things. And an example I would use is I remember speaking to a sales professional and just asking him, how are you so successful, in learning about his background. And one of the questions I asked was, is there ever a time that you just, like a sale that you lost that you just can't get over? And his thoughts were, I can't think of anything, because really, I believe in taking the lesson out of it and taking and going and finding another opportunity. And you have to move as quickly as you can. And it's that sort of mindset that really helped him become the successful salesperson that he was. It really supports stronger and healthier relationships. So we're in the house with relatives and family members and children. And we have to understand that being optimistic and having an optimistic view is much more attractive than pessimism, right? So we want someone that has a healthy attitude and outlook on the world. It also builds resilience, right? So if you can see a better way, then you are more than likely to get up and try to find it. And then just the enormous amount of health benefits that positive thinking has. And again, we have a responsibility to remain as healthy as we can, mentally and physically, to our families and our community. And studies have shown that stress hormones are decreased, and systemic inflammation is decreased also for people who are more positive and have an optimistic outlook. And again,
Yeah.
yeah, and again,
saying that there's more and more neuroscience and
yes.
The power of optimism and the power of our thoughts research than ever before.
Yes.
And the piece that you mentioned a moment ago about building resilience, and I'm hopeful you'll get to this shortly, but I'm going to share the question with you, and then you tell me if we're going to get to this in a little bit. So I know that a lot of us know that being optimistic is essential, and it's an important ingredient. What I don't know that all of us, including myself, always know is, where do I get that ingredient when it's not already present in my cupboard?
Yes.
That optimism during times of crisis, if the muscle isn't already built.
Mm-hmm.
And in extreme crisis for many of us, even if we're optimistic on a normal basis, this is a whole new ball game.
It is.
Share with us now or in a little bit about, okay.
Yeah, sure. And that's a great question, because I do believe that sometimes when we're saying, let's just be optimistic, it's not that simple.
Right.
So I will talk about a sort of hack that I created to build more optimism throughout my day, to just simply help me out with that. And hopefully it's helpful to others as well.
It will be. Great.
And so I do love this quote. It's by Helen Keller, and we all know her story. And it's just, optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. And sorry, I have it on the screen. Nothing can be done without it, without hope and confidence. And that just is an example of optimism, achievement, and how it really, really helps.
Faith. I can really appreciate that.
Yeah. So going to the next slide.
Is it cooperating with you?
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, there we are. So I did want to, before I go into the how, address some common myths of optimism. And I do like to, I do consider myself an optimistic person, but I know that in times when we think about optimism, sometimes we think about people who are just out of touch with reality. They don't want to see the bad in things, right? But that's not the truth. I think optimists can see the bad, but they're looking for that other alternative. How can we make the most out of it? It's that making lemonade out of lemons, right? Sort of a mindset. You're just daydreaming. You're happy all the time. That's not possible, right? There are legitimate things that happen in life that will cause us to feel other emotions outside of just being happy. And that optimism is the absence of problems. Again, that's not true for all of us, or any of us rather. Problems exist, and it's just an approach and a motivator to dealing with issues in life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
On that note, HR professionals, and we'll have plenty on our in attendance, right? Because this is business and HR strategies for helping our employees and our organization navigate this crisis. I think it's often up to those of us who understand the power of optimism, and in this case, those HR folks who understand as part of their role to foster optimism in a world where perhaps they're having furloughs and layoffs.
yeah.
And something that you just mentioned about it's not about being happy all the time. It's not about being out of touch with reality. It's not about whitewashing what we're experiencing.
Right.
And in fact, that can create a disconnect. I mean, we've all know people who are like, oh, don't you worry. It's all fine all the time. And, those are the kind of people we just want to go, all right, go back to smoking whatever you're smoking and leave me out of this. Right. We don't feel a connection with people who are out of touch with reality.
Right.
How might someone who's in charge of a team or an HR professional be optimistic in the face of such dire situations in some cases?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anissa. And I think for me, it's acknowledging the problem and empathizing with people, including showing compassion to yourself during this time. But I think as long as you acknowledge the problem and you identify solutions, whether it's offering, help through your EAP, or just being as transparent as possible during this time. What is the company doing? How are you responding? So that people are brought in and they understand. And just having compassion, even if you do have to get to the point where you're laying people off, let them know that they are valued and they were valued in the company. And just, I think this is the best time to be human. I know that a lot of times we get afraid of how to communicate or what to say. You don't want to say the wrong thing, but as much as you can, be transparent and be human during this time, because I think we all need that.
That's excellent advice. Thank you.
So, just looking at optimism and the myths, the way that I like to look at it is when we're optimistic, it just allows us to see things a little more clearly and see other possibilities. So I have this picture here. It was the same bridge, and you can see the night version versus the day version. And really, with our vision, when we have light and we see light, we are able to see different things. We can see color, we can see details that we normally would not see. If it was just the night vision, it was just grayscale. We can see sort of shapes, but not necessarily the details of it. And so that's how I look at optimism, as sort of a problem-solving tool that gives you the ability to look at things and see more details, see more possibilities, and see things clearly during a time where it's very easy to kind of just see what's in front of you, right?
Yeah. And so by pulling back the curtain and actually looking at what is, building on what you said just a moment ago about being human, acknowledging what is, but also shining a light on it, and shining a light on both, the situation at hand and how it's impacting folks, but also shining a light on, many of us are dealing with having to homeschool at the same time we have our 40, 60-hour jobs.
Yes.
And, even worse, some folks are also having to take care of sick relatives, or their relatives are not are being cared for and they don't get to be with them. And so there's that stress as well. What does it mean to shine a light on your situation and then pivot towards taking care of yourself in the middle of a desperate desire to take care of your loved ones, for example?
Yeah. So to me, that means that it's something that we all have in common, I think, as humans, is the ability to adapt. Eventually we find a way to move forward. And that's essentially what it means. It's addressing what's happening. I think the power of acknowledgement in these sorts of situations. So you just said, there's some parents who have to take care of, their kids. There's some employees who are taking care of their elderly or sick family members. And there's some that just are in fear. They're anxious. They don't know what's going to happen. So if you can address that, I think that alone is powerful versus this is business as normal. We're continuing to move forward. That's the wrong sort of optimism. But when you actually look at the situation, acknowledge it, take the problems into consideration, and try to solve them one by one as much as you can, or address them, that's where you really can win and move forward properly.
That brings me to, the worst kind of managers in this situation are the ones who are going to ask you, well, what did you do last hour and the hour before? And when can I expect this? And you should have had all this done already. And they're the worst kind of managers because they're not asking their people, what are you going through? How are you? What can I do to help? And by the way, I'm here for you, and we have certain performance expectations. How can I help you meet those?
Right. And I think there's no better time than now to see how important leadership development is,
Yeah.
and how important leadership is, because it truly is about serving, right? And removing barriers to moving forward and getting things done. And true leadership is so needed during this time. And what you just said, how can I support you? Here's what's expected. What do you need me to do for you during this time? That's a leader. But I think, you really have to, if you're in a leadership role, you do have to understand how important self-care is for your own self, right? So that you can, you're clear and you're able to function in that way. Because I don't think that we realize that when we're anxious and when we're affected by anxiety, it stays with us. And everything that we do from there is coming from that place. So if you're anxious as a leader, and you're operating out of fear, it's going to reflect on how you're responding to your direct reports and your team. It's going to be from a place of, here's what we have to get done, right? Versus, how can I support you? How can I serve you? That's an act of love, right? That's an act of someone who's taking care of themselves. So I don't think we can really underestimate self-care during this time as organizations. And that's why I really felt that it was important to bring it to this conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I know you're going to share with us how to pivot based on that perspective. So
Yes.
I'll hold my other questions.
Okay. Let's see if I can go to the next slide. All right, so this is just a cool tool. Look, see, love is kind of distorted right here. I apologize. Yeah, but it's what I call the perspective adjustment wheel. And to me, this is a hack that I like to use. All of these elements create sort of a system that builds optimism for me, no matter what's happening around me. I try to figure out, what can I create? Is this opportunity for me to learn? I try to make sure I have some element of exploration throughout my day. Love and nourish, which is just taking care of yourself. And I'll go through each of these. But why it's important and why I feel like it's relevant now is because what I've done is I've started to build a schedule, because the days tend to run together now. and we're doing the same thing just about. I don't know. I think I saw something like a meme that said, we're getting ready for the long weekend. We just finished the short weekend because they all tend to run together now. And so how I try to break up my day is through these different elements that are on this perspective adjustment wheel. And I found that it really keeps me grounded and keeps me on what we all know that we need, which is take care of ourselves, stay productive during this time, which is a little harder. So just having some sort of system in place really helps.
Yeah. What do you mean by when you walk through this? Let's say that I'm in HR and I'm looking to give my team a mechanism for shifting their perspective. How might I introduce this model, for example?
Yeah. So this, and I'll go through each one following this, but
Perfect.
it's just a lens, right? They could either look through each lens to figure out how can I create, how can I, is there an opportunity for me to learn? Or, how do I continue to make sure that I'm acting in love, I'm doing the things that I love? It's just, I would approach it as a holistic way
Yeah.
to functioning throughout this time, and just anytime really. It's a cool hack to optimism.
Great.
Yeah. So if we go through the next slide, which is leveraging creativity, some of the ideas that I have is, write a list of all the good that you find. I keep a list now, and it's really because it can get really easy, really easy to see all of the traumatic things that are happening, and we overlook some of the good. So for me, while my daughter is home, it's been a really great time to just get to know her and see her grow daily. So that's a good thing, to be able to spend that time with her. And it really, really helps. It's the same science behind gratitude, and just making sure that when you I lead with gratitude, because when there's gratitude, it's really hard for things like depression and stress to kick in. Curate your environment. I think this is more important now than ever before. So even in your home space, just ensuring that it's neat, it's a place of serenity, as much as you can. And then even online, what's the content that you see if you are on social media? How often are you spending watching the news? Is it just for information, or are you being consumed by what's going on around you? Just try your best to curate your experience in your environment. And from a employee and employer perspective, during this time, just understanding the power of creativity, I think, is really beneficial. Because when you're in a world where you feel like there's no control, we always have some element of control through how we want to respond. And I think that's where the creativity part comes in. So I came up with a method for, if you're in a business and or a lot of what I've been hearing now is just sales professionals not knowing how to approach the sales process, because it feels a little insensitive during this time to try to cold call, for example. So I came up with this method called the WIN method, and it's really used to discover new ways to do things for customers, employees, and communities. And so the W is, what do I offer? It could be, what do you offer as an organization? What are your offerings? Or just as an individual, what are your talents and gifts? And then the second question are, what are the needs of my customers and employees? And a great example of this is what we're on today as a leading in a crisis summit. You all got together and you did this WIN method, right? You looked at what you offer as an organization, and you looked at what your customers could be facing as a result of this change and this crisis, and you put together a plan to really offer something of value. And so that I is the intercede. How can I intervene on behalf of others during this time, or on behalf of my customers, on behalf of my employees? And then N is the new way forward. There is a new norm, there is a shift. So how do I do this in a new way? So you had this conference virtually, for example. You got together with a team of experts to create value. All of us have something that we could be doing as HR professionals. Apply the one method for how you're approaching your workforce, for how you're serving your leaders in your company. Allow your leaders to use this method as you're looking at your company as a whole, to respond to the community, the global community, your local community. And I guarantee you, by just applying that lens, you will create something that people need, and it will benefit your business for a long time, and your employees as well.
Agreed. I really like that model, and I'm rolling it over in my head. And some of the clients that we're working with are doing exactly that. I don't know that they knew they were working a model, but we have some clients who've been unable to adapt quickly, and
Yep.
part of it's because they're stuck in the difficulty and
Yep.
in the analysis paralysis space. And we have other clients who are moving towards solutions more quickly.
Yes.
And they may not know this model, but the ones that are moving more quickly, that are building bridges between the chaos and a temporary new normal and then their future, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
They're going through, what do I offer? What do my customers or state internal or external customers need?
Yes.
How can I help? How can I intervene? And what's the new way forward? And then this is a time for swift movement.
It is. Yeah.
For it's self-care or implementing a strategy or sending out communications. This is not a time to wait for perfection. It is about,
Yes.
imperfect perfection.
I agree 100% with you there. And, I've talked to leaders who have said that very thing. Well, we just have to wait it out. Now is not time to wait it out. Now is the time to take action. And if we all have some level of resource that we could put together to act, and that's the very nature of business, is to solve a problem, right? And so this is no better time than be a business than now. And I know that, and hopefully that doesn't come off as insensitive, because I understand the magnitude of what's happening. But it really is not a time, like you said, to stay still, but to make swift changes and action.
We are also seeing, the adage, necessity is the birthplace of innovation.
Yes.
And so there are organizations who were even struggling before this, who have now risen to the occasion to take on new opportunities. And I think that every employee can foster that mentality if they are provided that kind of leadership with what that means.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I'm anxious to kind of continue to hear all the stories that are coming out around innovation and people pulling together in that way.
Me too.
Okay. The next piece is just learning. I think we all know the benefits of learning. We're HR and talent development professionals, but what we're seeing with Innovation Solutions, so we're an e-learning company, is a lot of our customers are wanting to continue with training. And I know, during times like this, normally training is like the first thing to go, but there are so many organizations that understand how important and valuable training is with this time. So use it to upskill your organization. A lot of the customers and companies are using it to retain top talent. So perhaps right now, the employees cannot do the specific work that they're used to doing right now, but building development plans, giving them opportunities to continue to develop is a really good thing, so that they're not wondering and they don't feel uncertain, because this is a great way to curb uncertainty. If you're giving me development opportunities and I'm able to learn more and I feel like I still have a career path within your company, as far as the organization is concerned, then that's going to retain. I'm going to stay longer.
I know that that is a difficult prospect for many who are furloughing and layoffs and,
Yeah.
uncertainty. But I also know that historically, during times of layoff, even times of chaos and layoffs, 30% of the retained employees are already looking for their next opportunity because of uncertainty.
Hmm.
And so organizations that know, okay, we have to do something to let our current employees know you're here, we want you here, we have a career for you, such as giving them opportunities to upskill themselves and know that they can contribute in other ways to the organization, is ought to be a part of the strategy for sure.
Yeah, it certainly should be. And hopefully we'll have another opportunity outside of this talk to talk about this in further detail on just how organizations can use training as a strategy for retention and
And
commitment
shortly,
for
yes,
employees.
and shortly, I hope that you'll also share with us how organizations right now are using e-learning for their workers during this time, because I know that you're an expert in that.
Yeah. So yeah, and just just touching on that a little bit, they are building programs. There are pathways, certification tracks that employees are leveraging during this time just to ensure that um, the workforce comes back stronger, whenever they do. So it's a really good opportunity. Obviously, e-learning has been around and it's ready for such a time where people are at home, and they can just log in to a learning platform and take advantage of all the resources that an organization offers.
So this might not be the right place to ask this, but I can see that coming off as pretty insensitive, right? I know you guys are struggling to get your work done, but we've got this e-learning we want you to do too. What's your advice for not looking insensitive? We want you to take this leadership program while you're trying to homeschool your kids and work your 40-hour week, right? So what is a best practice around managing that effectively and not coming off as that's so not important? Why are you putting that in front of me?
Yeah, I think instantly of the push versus the pull. It definitely shouldn't be a push for education, and I think in many of the cases that I've seen so far, it's because the organization or that job family can't really perform the work that they can perform, but the company wants them to know that we know that you're not able to do X, Y, and Z at this time the way that you normally would. And if you have downtime, here's the opportunity to upskill and build your skill set. It's just a commitment and another
Nicely
level of,
said.
yeah, yes. So you don't want to mandate training on top of high performance goals. On That's not it. Again, that takes us back to the wrong way of optimism, right?
Very good.
Um, yeah, and just learning in general, because we also are talking about the individual. But just ensure that you have learning throughout your day on some level. Read an article. Maybe there's a skill that you've not had or that you've wanted to gain. This is a really good time to gain that skill. A lot of um, companies are offering discounted rates for certifications and trainings. Take advantage of that, and I think that will help you. Okay. And so nourish yourself. Obviously, we want to make sure that we stay healthy. Exercise. I have never been a runner. I'm not a runner. But for some reason, staying in the house for hours upon hours a day, running has been the most like best experience. It's like freedom, right? So I
Oh,
get to run around the neighborhood and I do it daily. I actually look forward now to getting up and running. So it's funny the amount of innovation I'm seeing in my exercise routine as a result of this. And just ensuring that you eat healthy foods. We know that it's related to our mood, our immune system. So just try to make sure that you're eating as healthy as you can. I like to meditate and spend time just in the morning being still, setting intentions for the day, not getting on my phone right away. And I feel that that helps me. I take at least 20 minutes in the morning to do that. Just a reminder to practice gratitude and really block off time for self-care. So mine is getting up before my daughter gets up. So I know that I have to do that before she gets up. But just being consistent about that has really helped out, and maintaining my routine and not getting sort of jaded because things are different, but keeping that routine really has helped me. But it's really important that we pour into ourselves, we feed ourselves so that we can feed others, whether it's our employees, our companies, our communities, our family. We cannot ignore how important this step is.
I think that's a really important point, and yet I also know that having worked with a lot of HR folks who would love to bring more mindfulness into their organization, who love the concepts around meditation and practicing gratitude. Historically, this is way too woo-woo and
Right.
way too flighty for us to introduce. And so my question goes to, if you've seen that really great commercial, I don't even remember what channel it's on, but it's maybe only 15 seconds. And
Mhm.
all it is take a moment to breathe,
Yeah.
and it counts down, and maybe it's only 10 seconds, but you're watching your show, maybe the Ozarks, which is our latest fad. Right?
I haven't caught up yet.
Oh gosh, it's crazy. So you're watching your show, and then this commercial comes on, and it's like an instruction, right? So I'm like, okay, and I do what it says. And amazingly, there's this sense of peace, this sense of it'll be okay. How
Right.
might HR or a leader use something that's perhaps not as controversial as meditation
Mhm.
to encourage their team or their employees to exercise daily, to meditate, or just breathe? Do you have some suggestions around that?
Yeah, so I think now, especially compared to years ago, like this was very taboo to talk about. But now you have fitness apps, even on our smartwatches. They were like my iPhone watch, it reminds me to breathe, So I think if you can kind of incorporate what we already have, our phones have apps already built onto them, fitness apps. I've seen companies are really successful at doing challenges. If an organization wants to use this time to keep people connected, it could be around a fitness activity or a fitness challenge. I just encourage you to get really creative. You know your culture better than anyone. So what works for your people and what works for what already exists. Just build on that, baby steps, right?
Very good.
Yeah. But it's so important. And to know that your organization is promoting it and um, wanting to look out for you is valuable. So explore is the next piece, and really it's just encouraging people to experiment during this time. So going back to my sales piece where, I just mentioned a lot of anxiety and hesitation from a lot of sales professionals on how do I approach. Now is a time to just experiment and doing it in a genuine way. I always say, if you truly believe that you have an answer to a problem and you don't communicate that to the person who has a problem, that's a crime. So we should really just make sure that, if you have a solution for a company, it's okay to reach out to them and share that. But maybe you want to experiment a new way to have those discussions. I've seen so many different ways that people are staying connected with their network. I think just having conversations, reaching out to one person at a time, trying to take it slow during this time is okay. Having virtual meetings or lunches or coffees during this time is another way that I've seen people experiment with staying connected to their network. Just finding new ways to do things. Again, you talked about the WIN method and exploring new places. So right now here in Houston, we're able to go to parks. So I try to get out and I'm on this park tour. I want to go to all these different parks. I can't do the same thing over and over. I have to have some level of newness in my day. So
Yes.
that's my way of doing it. It's just going after different parks and maybe driving to a different place, staying in the car, but I have to see something new. And I know that a lot of organizations are doing virtual tours of cities and countries and museums. So there's definite ways of keeping that
Connection.
exploratory piece going. Yeah.
And I love that. One thing that I find interesting too is in our like our high potential programs that we do, and in our optimal programs, there is a component of cross pollination, getting to know your peers or your counterparts in other areas of the organization.
Yes.
This would be the perfect opportunity
Such a
to
good opportunity.
to grab a virtual meeting and invite peers from other parts of the organization that you've never met, or to do a spin the bottle of sorts where you're meeting different people. And I think that HR could spearhead that as part of retained employee program. Let's get to know one another. Who do you need to reach out for different kinds of knowledge? So and so over in marketing has been working on this new product initiative. They're going to have a 10-minute meet and greet, share the new ideas. Anyone from the organization can join, whether you're a part of it or not. Here's what's happening. So there's that connection of exploring other relationships inside the
Yes.
organization that also creates some self-care, connection, exploration.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that example, and it really, really speaks to that piece. And there's an excitement element there where maybe there was a relationship that you wanted to build within the organization, but we've just been too busy to do it. And that was a really good time. And I think even those conversations will spark innovation. And yeah, that's great. I love that. And just love, it's just a reminder again, we're in the home with so many people, or in some cases we're by ourselves. But I love this quote from John Lennon that just says, there are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we're afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. So just keeping grounded in the things that we love to do, operating from a place of love and compassion as we reach out to our employees, our customers, and just staying grounded in that, because I think it really shows. It showed before, but it definitely shows now when we're operating from this place. Okay?
Agreed. Love is not something that we talk about a whole lot in
No.
organizations. It's not something that, we put on our list of operational values, or
Right.
necessarily most organizations don't have love in their mission. So if an organization or an individual is hesitant to talk about love in a situation, how else can we gain that same level of motivating force in the positive?
Yes.
How can we foster that passion and excitement and openness? It's really an acceptance and an energy that we're going for, but we may not be able, or some folks just won't feel comfortable calling it love. What are your recommendations there?
Yeah, so my recommendations there are compassion. We can talk about compassion. We can talk about empathy. And I think those are two areas that will get you the same result without feeling like, it's time to sing Kumbaya, so to speak. But it's really important that there's empathy, and then there's compassion in the organization, and we're compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, and operating from that place as much as possible.
So it's really modeling the behavior as much as communicating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are here for you. We care about you. You're important to us. We're grateful for you. And then modeling that through actual actions. So
Yes.
retaining as many employees as you can, helping those that you have to furlough through programs or outplacement services, or whatever it is, paying for their insurance I mean, those are acts of compassion.
They are, yes.
They're very difficult, but they're acts of compassion. What else do you recommend that HR do to round out all of these? I bet you're going to get to that next.
But to round out all of them, I think just again, if we go back to that WIN method, I do think that overall, just using that approach to all the decisions that you have to make. So like you said, if we have to furlough, can we give or provide resources? That's a time where people feel bad. They've put in a lot in the organization, and then they're being told that they're furloughed or they're being laid off. So how can you empathize? How can you show compassion during that time? Let them know that they were valuable. They are. What did they contribute? And that you're sorry that it has to be this way. I think we are all in this together during this time. And it's just a matter of, how things are done.
Agreed.
Yeah.
How we show up matters right now.
How we show up matters. Absolutely. So just in summary, I leverage optimism to increase wellness and productivity. That perspective adjustment I think it just helps with identifying solutions to build optimism. And then I always say build a daily routine and schedule around those 5 elements that we talked about in order to win your day. And also from the HR standpoint, using it to share with your employees, ensuring that they get that through whatever solutions and resources you're putting out. Hopefully that model is helpful as it guides you to build solutions.
So, for me, the takeaway is the importance of self-care, but also the importance of encouraging our employees and our teams to make sure they're managing self-care. And then finally, some of the piece that you touched on was ensuring that our managers understand the importance of their own self-care, but also a different kind of management approach that encourages self-care in their employees. And in exchange, we get we get more of the performance that we really need.
Yes, agreed. Yep. You certainly build commitment, engagement. I know that that's something that will be talked about, but it certainly is dwindling during these times of uncertainty. So it's important to keep that engagement so that we do stay productive, we do stay innovative, because we need those things as a company, as an organization during this time. And also we need healthy employees. So how do we do that? It's connected to how we think, it's connected to what we do. So those keys, those essential keys of staying healthy, innovation, and really adjusting to change and embracing change are what's going to get us through this time.
Beautiful. Well, I know that you have some ideas too about potential e-learning or potential solutions there. And I know that folks are going to want to reach out to you to explore your expertise. Share with us how we can get a hold of you, and also a little bit about the 50% off the e-learning strategy audit. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Certainly. So Innovation Solutions, we're offering a e-learning strategy audit, which is just a full review and scope of your e-learning strategy. We'll have our team of experts look at your user experience, your LMS platform, how things are functioning within your company, and just get a little bit about your philosophy and what you're looking to achieve. And from there, we'll give you some recommendations and really show the strengths in our areas for development in your strategy. I think it's a good offer, especially now. You want to make sure that your training programs are as good off-site rather as they are on-site. So we'll certainly help with that during this time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Excellent. So thank you, Candace, very much. And folks, I
No
want to share
problem.
with you just a little bit more about some of the exclusive offers that we talked about early on in the webinar. One is our outplacement packages. We have high-level executive outplacement packages as well as your mid-level. And then we also have scalable outplacement hybrid packages that are digital and personal coaching outplacement that includes the company values, that it demonstrates the compassion that we were talking about. And it includes, of course, empowerment, job search skills, resume writing, LinkedIn profile development, interview preparation, and more. We have a program that's specifically for retained leaders and a program that's specifically for those who you've had to let go and outplace. And the best link to find information about the Name Your Own Price offer is at turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/NYOP for Name Your Own Price Outplacement. The packages for the digital programs include a kickoff, a group coaching video conference, 2 weeks of a digital coaching journey, and then a final ready to fly group coaching experience. The cost, most of these programs range from anywhere from $800 to $2,500 a person. So as part of our response to the pandemic challenges, we're doing the program, the scalable digital hybrid program at a Name Your Own Price. So do reach out, and also do check back at our Leading in a Crisis Summit. You will find more speakers coming on every day. Candace, I am so appreciative of you sharing your expertise with us. I've enjoyed this immensely.
Great. I'm again happy to be here, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Take care and stay safe.
Bye.